Hello everyone. So I had a request by a friend who wanted me to look more into Cory Monteith's death again. So this is like a part 3 to my investigations the last couple days. We do have this inkling feeling firming that there was more to Cory's death than we were told. As I said in the first video, he has visited me in the past. He did tell me he believes he was murdered. Because he does not believe that heroin was supposed to kill him. It was only a small amount that they found, mixed with his codeine pills from his painkillers and the alcohol. Jody Sweden from Fuller House had a similar overdose problem. But it didn't kill her instantly like it did Cory. They were able to save her. So, I do intentionally believe that the people that were in that room with Cory were his drug dealers, or were drug dealers, set out with a task to distribute a very toxic brand of heroin mixed with like rat poison and other chemicals that would not come up in a toxicology report. So I'm going to see if I can get some kind of message from Cory today, if he can help us determine what really happened that night. And Cory, if you have any messages that you need to try to send through that you feel that are of utmost importance, jump the cards for me. Make the cards come out during the shuffle. Okay, so I'm going to be doing 12 cards here. And as you can see, the way I have this set up today is a lot better than it was the last couple times. Like I said, this is all getting to me as this is a brand new thing that I'm doing here. So I've been having to do a lot of experimenting as far as camera setups go, to where you guys will be able to see the cards well. And what I do is I have my laptop actually hooked up via HDMI to my TV so I can see my screen, but not have to look at two different screens. And that way I'm still able to use my laptop, and I have it set up on my laptop tray that you saw in the last video. And again, I do apologize with the audio for that. I had no idea that the tapping was coming up on that microphone. It was a different camera. It was an external web camera that I have plugged in. This time I'm actually using the built-in camera that's on my laptop, and I have it angled on the tray. So again, please bear with me here. Like I said, this is all kind of new. The tray is kind of blocking the view of my guide, so there is, I think what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to try to get it to where I'm actually am looking at two screens here. So please bear with me here. As you see, I'm kind of like leaning under. Okay, I apologize for that, you guys. When I was messing with the display, the first attempt at my video, it stopped. So this is still the same setup. What I ended up doing, I had my laptop set up on my TV tray, my laptop stand. I had it raised up. I could not see the TV, so I was trying to lower it, and somehow it caused the video to stop when I was messing with the display. It's on the computer itself. So I ended up just lowering the tray itself and unfolding the legs and setting it on the bed. Now I have it set up that we're back to our original view here, sort of. So I am going to move these up a little bit just because I moved the tray back a little bit. You'll still be able to see the cards. Now remember, we said that we were asking Cory to give us some insight into the night he died and what happened with the overdose, whether it was intentional or not. And we weren't really getting any clear messages the other night. He was telling us more about Lea the other night. And with this view, this is a real-time view. However, don't go based off of what's down here as this being the bottom row. This is actually the top row here. So this may look like this is upright, but it's really reversed to my, I'm going based off of my perspective. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start. And I'll be starting over here and going this way based on my camera. It's as if you were looking directly at me. I think I want to do it that way, because actually it does look like the image is flipped, because this is my right side. Okay, this image, it's looking like this image is flipped. So bear with me here for 1 second. I'm going to try one more thing. Okay, so unfortunately I have no way of flipping the image. I'll have to do this in a video editor. So again, we're just going to start over here with the Seven of Pentacles and go this way, and then go this way, and then go this way. So that way, once I have this video flipped, hopefully if it lets me, it really looks like I'm actually going the right direction, going from this way instead of this way. So, okay, so bringing up my guide here. We have the Seven of Pentacles, and we were asking Cory about what happened the night he died, and what happened with related to his overdose. So there's perseverance. So there's perseverance. He's telling us. I think it's him telling us he still wants us to dig deep, persevere in revealing whatever happened that night. But there's sustainable results, or there was some kind of investment. So there was definitely money involved, which could be him purchasing the drugs. It could have been a deal gone wrong. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next card here and see if we can get more. That's the Nine of Swords reversed. So, secrets, inner turmoil, deep-seated fears. He was very scared for something. He was very, very, very worried, very scared. There was a lot of anxiety. You know, his inner turmoil was his addiction. But he was very fearful of, I don't know if he was fearful of falling off the wagon again, or if after coming out of rehab, or if there was more to it. And then we have temperance reversed. There was an imbalance. He was self-healing. He was realigning his issues and his life. So he is telling us that he was getting better. He was worried about falling off the wagon, but he was definitely better when this supposedly happened. And then we have the Ten of Swords. Again, people like to attribute this as the murder card. But when it's reversed, it means recovery and regeneration. So his trip to Canada, he was actually there for recovery and regeneration. He wasn't there to intentionally do anything. But he is, again, saying, you know, there's possibility of there was betrayal with his death. Then we have the Three of Pentacles. And this is reversed. He was alone when he died. But there was some disharmony in this when he died. And then we have the Knight of Cups. Right here. Sorry, my brain's funking out today. There was some jealousy. Something was unrealistic. There was some jealousy regarding something. I'm not sure what that would be, but we'll look more into that when we go with the next layer cards over each card. Then we have the Ten of Cups reversed. Again, this usually uses relationships when it's upright. When it's reversed, there's some disconnection or some misaligned values. There's also struggling relationships. So I don't know if that's him and Lea necessarily. There's a bug. I'm wondering if he was breaking the friendships that he had with those people that were in that room with him last night and something went wrong. And I feel that's what he's directing us to. And then we have Justice. This is the Truth card. There is a truth. There's law and order. You know, cause and effect. So he's looking for justice. He's looking for the truth to come out about what really happened that night. And as I had said in the first video, there was like a 2-page autopsy report and a 1-page police report. Cory was found perpendicular to the bed. Again, imagine that one of these cards is the bed, right? And he was found horizontal to the bed like that, how the remote's laying. Which just does not add up to overdose. So what I think happened is he took his pain pills, and there was something mixed in with him. And so we're going to try to see if we can get some more answers on that. But going back to this last row here, before we go into adding more cards, we have the King of Cups. And he says his emotions were imbalanced. There was some diplomacy with whatever it was he was doing. But his emotions were imbalanced. So it wasn't an intentional that he was depressed or anything like that and wanted to harm himself. So he definitely did not want to harm himself and did not intend to do whatever what he had done. So, and then we have the Four of Cups. And it's reversed. This is like retreat, withdrawal. So he was still going through the withdrawals. However, he was retreating from that. He was getting sober. He was sober. Yes, you go through the withdrawals when you have a drug problem if you're sober for a very long time. And his mom had said, you know, those painkillers kind of sort of got him back on, you know, got him off of the wagon again. However, he was in control of limiting himself. So again, there's, with that King of Cups, you know, it was not intentional. It was not, he wasn't trying to fall off the wagon. He was not trying to cause harm to himself. There is more to this. Then we have Strength reversed. Again, there was some self-doubt. He was using his inner strength to overcome his addiction. But there was a lot of raw emotion that night. So I get the feeling that the people that were with him, something happened that he was trying to break away from that relationship and end the friendship or whatever, and things didn't go over very well. And then we have the Three of Cups. This is like celebration, friendship, creativity, collaborations. So again, something happened with his friends that were in that room with him that ended up going sour. Now, when the Three of Cups is reversed, it means independence a long time, but it also means hardcore partying. So I feel that there was not any hardcore partying going on, despite them finding all that champagne bottles and the spoons in that room. He's telling me that they really were not partying, or at least he was not hardcore partying, but his friends were. So all that stuff belonged to his friends. And they just left it there for him. So I'm going to go ahead and flip cards on top. Again, if the number is on the left, it's upright. If it's on the right, it's reversed. So on top of that, Seven of Pentacles, which remember we said there was perseverance. He wanted us to pursue, persevere in finding out whatever this was, that there was some kind of investment. The Judgment card came up on top of that. So he's telling me there's an absolution. There's an absolution to whatever this is. He wants us to find the absolution, find the truth. And then we had that Nine of Swords. We had the King of Swords reverse come up on that. That Nine of Swords reverse, he was struggling with this inner turmoil. He was anxious, he was worried. He was fearful of something very deeply. Like, he had this huge secret. And the King of Swords reversed, he's telling us there was manipulation, there was misuse of power somewhere. And I believe that could be attributed to that they duped us into believing it was this, non-toxic, that it was just supposedly an accident. He's telling us that the police manipulated the public when it came to his death. And remember, again, we had that Temperance reversed. Again, he was realigning his value, his life. He was self-healing. He was, trying to rejuvenate himself. Now, the Sun reversed has come up on that. And he was overly optimistic. He was feeling good. He was in a good place at the time he died. So I do believe he is telling us, he had no intentions of taking any drugs. He was clean. He was sober. He had Lea. They were going to get married and start their family. They were probably planning to move to Canada, from what I have heard. I know that he was looking at apartments. So it sounded like they were going to start off small in Canada and then eventually buy a house for their family. And then, remember, we had that Ten of Swords reversed. That he was talking about how he was going to recover in a generation. He was taking this time to recuperate after getting out of rehab, and he was doing good. But there was, it was a betrayal or some kind. The Tower reverse came over it, and that's personal transformation. But I feel like he's telling us he was trying to avert a disaster. Again, going back, that there was some kind of like chaos or sudden, awakening to him. That, again, I'm tying it back to his friends that were in that room with him. I feel that he's telling us he had some kind of revelation about his friends, and was trying to avert a disaster with them. And going back to that Three of Pentacles, remember there was, he was alone. He's telling us he was alone when he died. The Five of Pentacles came up. That is usually isolation and worry, and a lack of mindset. So, again, I'm tying this that, he was alone. He's still telling us he was alone. And he had a lot of worry going through him. And I believe it's whatever had happened in that room between him and his friends before they all left. That was like so deep in his mind. And then we had that Knight of Cups. I remember we said, he's talking how, he was jealous and moody, but, he was very, very creative and a romantic, right? That's Eight of Swords, right? I'm sorry, my Roman numerals, I should know my Roman numerals. My eyes have to adjust to this lighting in here. So we have that Eight of Swords, and he's telling me there was some kind of imprisonment or victim mentality going on that night. So I do believe it is something to do with his friends. That there was some kind of jealousy, and they were imposing some kind of like restriction on him. So, again, I'm tying this to his friends. And remember we had that Ten of Cups. Again, there was like a struggling relationship that we were thinking were his friends. That there was some kind of misaligned values. The Nine of Pentacles has come up on that. He feels he was overinvested in working. That he's hustling too much. That it was going too fast with his career. And he did not like the spotlight. So I feel that there was some kind of jealousy from his friends regarding his fame. I think his friends were trying to use him for his fame, and that's what he's trying to tell us. And then back to the Justice with the Truth card. We had the Seven of Wands come up on it. The Seven of Wands, he was seeking some kind of protection. But again, this also is perseverance. So just like back here with the Seven of Pentacles, also saying there's some perseverance. You want us to persevere. He wants us to persevere the truth. He wants us to. They're trying to protect the truth from coming out, and he wants us to find out what it is. He wants us to bring the truth out. And then we go back to that King of Cups. Again, his emotions were imbalanced that night, and there was some kind of diplomacy going on. So we have the Six of Pentacles here. This is like the wealth card. Or generosity or charity. He was very charitable. But this also means giving and receiving. So again with that Knight, I feel he gave them money or received something from them. Again, I believe that his friends may have been the ones that had given him the drugs, or had, supposedly mixed them in with his painkillers. but he didn't care about money as much. He used to be a big splurger when Glee first started. He would like buy all these fancy cars. Eventually he stopped doing that once he and Lea were together, and he was really saving his money. So whatever this is, he's telling us that he either gave them something or he received something from them. And I do believe that he's talking about that they gave him the drugs. And then we have the Four Cups again. Remember we said with the Four Cups reversed like that, there was some withdrawal and retreat. And he was, withdrawing from the drugs. The Queen of Swords came up on that. With the withdrawal, there was some kind of unbiased judgment about it, or some kind of direct communication. So, I feel that with this, he's just telling us I was still going through withdrawal, but not as bad as I was before. And then back to that Strength card reversed, we had the Queen of Pentacles come up over it. The Queen of Pentacles, and he was trying to provide financially for him and Lea. They were going to be working parents at some point when they started their family, but he was being practical and nurturing about everything. And with that, with that Strength reverse, remember we had said that there was some kind of self-doubt. So it's possible that he was doubting himself and whether he would be able to provide for his family. And I think that was, again, tying into them. They wanted to leave Hollywood. They were getting away from the business, so they could start the family, protect their kids' safety, their children's safety. So I think there was a lot of worry about what they were going to do for work when they moved to Canada, whether they just acted in Canada in a much more safer environment, or if, they would just be going and working regular jobs, or if they wouldn't be able to work at all. And I think that's what worried him the most, is how he was going to provide for their family, despite, I'm sure they were well off from Glee. And then remember we had that Three of Cups, that there was some kind of like celebration, or we thought it was their friendships, his friends that night. The Three of Wands came up on that. This literally means progress, expansion, foresight, or an overseas opportunity. So again, I feel that there was some kind of with the celebration or the friendship, or it also does mean collaboration. So I do feel that whatever this is, he's telling us that he was in the process of doing some kind of project that would have required him to go overseas, possibly. Or this is, again, talking to him about, being in Canada and working on something out there. So I'm not entirely sure. So now what I want to do, this is something I don't do too often too. I'm going to do another layer of cards over and get some more clarity into what's going on here with this. So now we're at that Four of Pentacles reversed. There is some overspending or greed, or even some self-protection. So I feel he's telling us he's trying to protect himself from whatever happened that night. Again, he was looking into clarity. He was trying to protect himself from whatever happened that night. And then we had the chariot reversed. There was some opposition. So I feel that he was opposed to his friends bringing all that stuff in the hotel room. And that's what led to some kind of disagreement, or, you know, he was anxious with all that stuff in the room with his sobriety, and he was opposed to it. So that's what he's trying to tell us, that he knows that there was something did not seem right that night, being with those people when they brought that stuff in. Going back to that temperance and that sun, remember he said he was feeling overly optimistic about, you know, his sobriety. He was clean, he was sober. And that's the Ten of Wands. He was releasing that burden that he was carrying with his sobriety. So he was clean, he was sober, he released that burden. He had come out of rehab a new man and was fine. So again, I do not believe that he willingly took those drugs. I feel that somehow those drugs may have been mixed in with painkillers from his having his teeth fixed. Again, back to the Ten of Swords and the Tower. You know, he was worried, you know, originally, that he was, you know, he felt betrayed. While he's going through his recovery and his regeneration. And he was trying to avert disaster, and all of a sudden there was chaos. But the Fool has come up on that, reversed. There was recklessness that night. His friends were holding back from him. So his friends go back and be re-questioned on everything that happened that night, or looked into more. The person who asked me to do this reading believes that they didn't look into his friends enough as far as the background checks go. Her husband is a police officer, and he apparently also has, you know, given her insight into this, that something just seemed off about that night, too. So, I'm hoping that we can figure out what's going on here. But it's starting to sound like that his friends definitely had something to do with his death. Now, going back to the 3 and the 5 of Pentacles. The 5 of Pentacles, remember we said he was worried. He was alone, but he was, you know, going through all these worries, being alone. The Knight of Swords has come up on that. He had to do some fast thinking. So again, I'm going to tie that back to his friends from earlier. I'm thinking with going back to earlier that he had to do some quick thinking, and he had told his friends to get out and not come back. He saw them out and made sure that security did not let them back into the hotel. So again, something happened with his friends, and I believe it's because they had brought all that alcohol and those drugs in to his hotel room, that he got so uncomfortable. Even if he had supposedly was a designated driver and did not partake in anything, he was just not comfortable with the amount of stuff in there, and told them they had to go. And he did have a early flight that next morning to go back to LA, or it was sometime in the afternoon, because they did not find him till midnight, till noon. They didn't find him till noon on Pacific time, so that's like 3 p.m. my time. So it was well into the afternoon that they didn't find him, which should have been a red flag there from the beginning if they knew that he had to leave early. I'm not understanding why nobody was able to find him earlier. And then going to that night, back to that Knight of Cups, remember we said that, you know, he was full of creativity and he was a very big romantic, but that there was some jealousy, and that Eight of Swords, that there was some, he felt that there was some victim mentality or some kind of restriction or imprisonment. The Eight of Pentacles came up on that. There's been some misdirection with this. So I'm tying to his creativity, that he's telling me that he was so torn about getting out of Hollywood, with not liking the spotlight the way it was. So I feel that, you know, whatever was imprisoning him may also have something to do with his death. I remember I said something about, we had this theory swirling around that, you know, the Glee cast was involved in trying to expose Pizzagate. So I don't know if this is related to that or not. There was some kind of restriction that he is imposing. And I'm going to apologize here because apparently my cat has decided to lay on the bed with me, but he's not in the video, so this is good. He's over here on this side. His name is Ozzy. He's a Maine Coon. He's a very, very, very smart cat, but he's also very lazy. And my cats usually aren't like this when I'm doing a tarot reading unless they can sense a presence here, which they did not really harass me last night because I kicked them out of the room so they wouldn't interfere with my reading. But today I left the door open because I'm trying to get the air conditioning going. It's a very hot day today, so. And going back to that Ten of Cups reverse, remember I said there was a struggling relationship of some kind. And then with that Nine of Pentacles, there was some kind of overinvestment in his work or some kind of, you know, quick pace that we thought maybe he was, you know, attempting to end these relationships. The Queen of Cups reverse came up on that. His inner feelings, his intuition was telling him to end whatever this relationship was. There was some kind of codependency there for something, however. So, again, I'm not entirely sure. But I believe that this is a direct result of his friends he was with that night. And then we have the Justice card again. Remember, we said there was truth. And then we had the Seven of Wands. That he was trying to protect something or persevere for something. So he's trying to persevere the truth, and we need to know what that truth is. That's what we're trying to find out. The Queen of Wands came up reversed. Some kind of self-respect or self-confidence. He was reestablishing his sense of self after going into rehab. So he was definitely trying to protect his sobriety. So he's telling us he was protecting his sobriety that night with everything that was going on. And going back to that King of Cups and the Six of Pentacles, remember I said wealth? There was wealth and and then his emotions were imbalanced. That Five of Wands came up on it, with it. There was some kind of conflict or disagreement. So there was a lot of tension that night. So again, they had some kind of disagreement or of some kind that night. I don't know if it was over his, you know, his wealth or if it was just over him being so famous. But again, there was some kind of disagreement that night. I do honestly believe that possibly one of them decided to take advantage of that fight and do something. And we're going back to that Four Cups and the Queen of Swords. I remember we said that, there was some kind of unbiased judgment or direct communication with his withdrawal. That Six of Swords reversed like that. There's some unfinished business. He was having a personal transition with his sobriety, but he's telling us there's some unfinished business. And I believe that's uncovering what really happened that night. And then going back to that Strength card with the Queen of Pentacles. Remember, he said there was a lot of self-doubt about being able to provide for his family when he and Lea got married and started their family. This Page of Cups does signify the birth of a child or some sort of celebration, some kind of emotional celebration. So an unexpected and pleasant surprise can sometimes be sensed by that. So is this him telling me that they were ready to have a baby and they got the green light to go ahead? Because Lea does suffer from PCOS, and it's a struggle with infertility. So I do believe at that time, before he passed away, they got the green light to start a family, whether that might have been them resulting in having to do in vitro fertilization or some other kind of way to get pregnant. But this is promising, especially with going on with Lea's pregnancy now, that I know she's been very quiet about it. So again, this is tying back to our first talk with him. So yes, he was definitely worried about being able to provide financially. So it even could be maybe he was worried about the cost if they had to resort to in vitro fertilization or getting Lea the right medication for her PCOS, getting all the help, because it's expensive out there in California. So that could be also the reason why they were going to move to Canada. It might have been a lot cheaper healthcare wise, cost wise for their healthcare. Because I know in Canada they have free healthcare in Canada. So what all that includes, I'm not sure if there's any Canadians that can, sorry, my leg's getting a little stiff here. If there's any Canadians that can kind of clarify on that a little bit better for me about what's covered and what's not with your guys' health insurance. If everything's included, that would definitely make sense then. So any help I can get over with that, just leave in the comments below and let me know. And then remember, we had the Three of Cups and we had the Three of Wands. And this last one here, that there was, something to do with his friendships or some sort of collaboration. But there was some kind of he was making progress on something, or there was some kind of opportunity coming up for him. This is the Five of Cups reversed. Why I have that bug flying around in my room? That must have snuck in from the window. So with this means moving on. So this is definitely him saying, yes, we were moving on from Hollywood. We were leaving. There was a bit of a personal setback with him having to go in rehab. And that kind of opened his eyes and realized, wow, this is not the life I want. So, definitely, Cory has told us, yes, something happened that night. And I was clean, I was sober, I did not intentionally take any drugs other than my painkillers for having the dental work done. So, this is very promising, you guys, that he has come through with this, telling us that there was a big argument that night with him and his friends over the champagne and the drugs that were in the room. And he's telling us that he was sober and he did not willingly ingest anything, despite the toxicity reports saying there was alcohol and stuff in there. It's possible maybe he had one drink, but having one drink would not cause you to fall off the wagon. And I say this because I have alcoholics in my family, and my aunt and uncle worked very hard for their sobriety over the years. My uncle still does not drink. However, my aunt does occasionally, sporadically drink, have a beer or like a gin and tonic or something. But she does it in moderation. She has it in control. So one drink would not cause him to fall off the wagon and lose his sobriety like that night. Lea even states in her song Getaway Car that, her and Cory would have champagne. They would have a glass of champagne every so often, but they did not really drink. They were not drinkers. They did not party. So, and a lot of the Glee cast has confirmed that she really helped him with his sobriety. It was totally the opposite from what everyone's accusing her, saying that she was bad for him. She was the reason. She was none of those things. She was so good for him, and definitely helped him get clean and sober. Because a lot of him falling off the wagon actually occurred between 2010 and 2011. Perhaps even, from what I heard, it was his birthday after they had wrapped the first season of Glee in 2010, filming that. It was his birthday, and Nia even stated in her book that he drank a beer that night or something, and he ordered some kind of drink that night, and they were all astonished to see him drinking because he did not drink. So, again, I do believe that perhaps he did have a glass of champagne, but not enough to cause him to fall off the wagon. He may have had a sip and may not have liked it, too. Like saying, okay, yeah, no, I can't drink this. And that would still show up in the system. So it's not necessarily he was hardcore partying that night. Okay, what I'd like to do next, I'd like for Cory to give us some more insight into his friends that night. You're saying that there was some kind of disagreement or conflict. If there's anything you can tell us more about what that is, if you could tell us if it was over the alcohol and the drugs that they brought in, was it over money and fame? Were they angry at you? Did they not like Lea? Did they not like something that was going on? And give us some more clarity into that. If you could tell us if there, if it was a guy who may have, if the drugs were laced, the painkillers were laced, if they poured something in there and that you weren't aware of. Try to give us some kind of insight. What I'm going to do, I'm going to flip 3 cards. So we have that 7 of Cups. And it's reversed. He's telling us he was overwhelmed by some choices So I feel he was overwhelmed by his friend's choices to bring in those drugs and that alcohol that night. And he feels that it was a big burden with that Ten of Wands. He worked very hard for her sobriety. He felt very upset that they brought that in there. And then we have that King of Swords reverse. He feels that he was manipulated by his friends. He was duped by them. Possibly they said, oh, well, we're not going to bring anything, don't worry, we're just going to go out and have a good time and not have, it's going to be a sober night for you, we're going to make it come. And then they lied to him, and I think that's what I'm tying into here, is that he was very upset that they lied to him, saying we weren't going to do anything like this, and they did. So I'm going to flip 3 more cards here underneath. I'm going to kind of scooch them up. This is similar to what I did last night with the long columns here, so I'm going with that. Going back to the King of Swords, that he felt that he was manipulated or lied to by his friends about that night. That Seven of Wands came up. And again, it's just saying he was overwhelmed, or he was giving up. Remember, it was upright last time about protection, but this, it came up reversed. He's again saying he's overwhelmed, going back to he overwhelmed by the choices he had to make that night. And then with that burden, the Empress card came up on that. So it was a female that was in the room with him that night that was making him uncomfortable with the drugs and the alcohol. There was a woman. One of his female friends was the one who brought all that stuff. It was not a male, it was a female. So, I do know there was a female, from what I was told, that was in the room with them. So, that female needs to be looked into more. Whoever this woman was, she needs to be investigated more thoroughly into her past. A small background check would just not do good enough. With now, if she's been tied to drugs recently in the last 7 years since after his death, she definitely needs to be looked into more, as she might end up having to come clean about the truth that she was the one that provided the drugs. They really need to look into figure out who, they decided not to pursue where that heroin came from, and that's what's very upsetting. Because we did not know where he got that from or how it ended up in his system. They decided, the Vancouver Police Department decided not to pursue that. At that point, there should have been a criminal investigation. There was a lot of police presence there that night. Even after they had the press conference. So they were still investigating, but they decided not to thoroughly investigate anymore and ruled it as an accident. But there should have been a criminal investigation. And then going back to that, we said the Seven of Cups. Remember he said he was overwhelmed by choices. The Two of Cups came up. There was a lot of distrust that night. He did not trust this woman. So I feel that this woman was not really necessarily his friend personally. She was a mutual friend with whoever else was in the room with her, and he really definitely did not trust her. And that could have led to the conflict and disagreement. So I'm going to flip 3 more cards here. Again, I'm going from right to left this time. And I'm not sure how 2 cards ended up on. We had a jumper, so what I'm going to do, I had a jumper. I'm just going to count it with this and just do 2 cards in the next time. Because that's weird that happened like that. I only remember, I only grabbed one, so So whatever is stuck, he's telling us something. So that chariot, there was, again, he was determined to stay sober. Or whatever it was, he was determined to give his choosing on his, tell his friends that they had to leave. They had to take this person out. So, yeah, going back to that chariot, he said he took action and kicked them out, told them they had to leave. Now, I'm not going to say anything on this card yet because it was jumped. It must have been, he had it stuck to the Six of Cups. That Six of Cups. So these people that were with him, they were childhood friends that he was with. Again, not necessarily the female was a friend of his, but a mutual acquaintance of his childhood friends. So she was a mutual acquaintance of his childhood friends. And then we had the Eight of Pentacles. Again, now this time it's upright. So there was some repetition or mastery as far as just with the way he distrusted these people and being overwhelmed by the choices he was making with them. So that Eight of Pentacles, the reason I feel he was just trusting his friends is because they would always do the same things with him. And these were people that claimed to have probably also been... There's a chance that these people were there when he had overdosed the first time when he was 19 years old. So this, I feel that he's telling me that his friends never fell on the wagon. They never got sober. And he was officially ending the ties with them when they met up with him while he was at home. Okay, so going back, so that sun's on that card there. So I'm going to add a card there and I'll add a card here. So going back to this column with the burden and he's feeling manipulated and overwhelmed. And he was doing had all his control and his willpower to kick his friends out. The Ace of Swords has come up. Now normally we attribute that Ace of Swords to sometimes with childbirth as well. However, he was using his better judgment that night. He had mental clarity and there was a breakthrough. So I feel that he knew who this woman was, whoever she was not a good person. I knew his friends, were still mingling with the wrong crowd. So going back to that column with the mystery woman and the burden and his childhood friends, the Sun card came up. And with it reversed, again, this is him saying he was overly optimistic about something. So whatever it is, his inner child is saying, you know, these are my friends, you know, I've known them my whole life. However, he did not trust this woman. So if it still feels like he had some kind of trust with his childhood friends. However, he did not trust this woman that was with them. And then again, going back with him being overwhelmed by all those choices in this first column, the Two of Pentacles has come up. He was getting his priorities straight. He was definitely getting his priorities straight. He was trying to manage his time that night as well too, because he had a flight. So again, that disagreement was him saying, hey, you guys need to go because I'm going back to LA tomorrow. I need to go to bed. And his friends were like encouraging him to, like, oh, let's just go out for a little bit longer or whatever. But again, and if you pardon me here for a second, I just need to grab my keyboard because I brought it up for a friend of mine last night. The autopsy report. Because in the autopsy report, they gave a little more insight into like what time he had come back. So they're saying he apparently came back to his room about 2:15 Pacific time, but was alone. But however, it didn't say what time he left the hotel room with his friends. So this is why I'm a little confused. And I feel that he's telling us that, you know, they were trying to get him to, you know, go out and party, and he didn't want to, and he wanted to go to bed. It was late. He had to get up early. So my guess is they were there, and they overwelcomed their stay. Then they brought that stuff out, and that was the last straw. He kicked them out. Escorted them down. Went and got something to eat, and then came back up to his hotel room. Made some phone calls, and then went to bed. So that's what I'm going off of that he eventually kicked these people out of his room because they violated his privacy and his sobriety by bringing in drugs and champagne. And they didn't have time to clean it all up because he was going to call the police. However, he just ended up getting exhausted, you know, from the day's events. So that's why he somehow, he must have collapsed before he had a chance to do anything as far as cleaning up that stuff or calling the police to report what they had done. So I'm going to flip through more cards here. I'm going to now I think my cat's in the video because he can. Okay. His paws are. This is Ozzy. And he's very lovey. No, he loves hearing about Cory. He's watched Glee with us since we got him. It was the last season that Glee was filmed that year when we got him. So we have the Page of Wands here. He's telling us with this column that there was he discovered something. So again, I'm tying this back to that, he discovered that they'd brought this champagne and these drugs in, and that it was going to mess with his sobriety. and all that stuff. So again, you know, he discovered they lied to him about something, and I believe that, again, that it was the alcohol and the drugs, that they said we're just going to hang out and chill, and then he discovered all this stuff that when they brought it all out, and that was the last straw for him, and he kicked them out. And then we have the Fool in the next column, again with that mystery woman and his childhood friends. It was spontaneous with them coming to visit. So they must have they just randomly showed up and said, hey, want to hang out while you're here? And at first he agreed, but again, he didn't know who this woman was. He just didn't trust her very well. But he was innocent in this whole ordeal. And then we have the Emperor card on that column where he was overwhelmed about the choices he had to make with his friends. This is usually, the Emperor card usually is a father figure card. So, it also means authority and establishment. So this is definitely him taking authority once those drugs and that champagne came out. That he kicked them out and told them to get out, or he was going to call the police. And I do feel that's what happened. Is that he threatened to call the police on them, and they said, okay, we'll leave, please don't. So maybe it's possible Cory even possibly bought them off, maybe? Or, paid them to keep, or maybe they bought him off to keep quiet. It's possible. Again, it was going back to that other thing. There was money involved somehow. Someone gave and someone received, and I'm not sure what that was. So yes, with this column, remember, we're going down. I'm going to go down this whole column again and remind you what everything is, so that you see that it's tied together. That King of Swords reversed, he was lied and manipulated to. And then we had that Seven of Wands reversed. He was overwhelmed but he was also exhausted at the same time when his friends were there. And then we had the Seven of that Chariot. There's Roman numerals at the top of all these cards, but then when there's a major arcana card, they still have a Roman numeral on top, so I'll tend to get confused here, because it goes in order. Remember, he was determined to stay sober. He had control. He was using his willpower. And then that Ace of Swords. Remember, he said he used his better judgment that night and did not willingly ingest anything, except possibly maybe have one tiny sip or of a drink, and he did not really care for it. They just said they found alcohol in the system. Whether that was the champagne again, or maybe they did have like a beer, which a beer would not throw you off, And then we going back to that Page of Wands. I remember that he's saying that he discovered something. He was trying to go down a spiritual path with this. However, that night it resulted in his death. So that Death card, again, that Death card, it's endings, change, transformation, transition, but it's death. So with them bringing that stuff in that night, it resulted in his death. Then going back to the burden and the mystery woman and his childhood friends, that last card we have the Hangman. He was letting them go. He was letting his friends go. He ended those friendships that night. when they abused his trust and abused their trust, and by bringing in the alcohol and those drugs, he's telling me he did kick them out and asked them to leave. And then finally we have the Three of Pentacles. Remember, this is where he said he was overwhelmed by the choices, and he was being firm and telling them they couldn't be there with that stuff, that they had to go. He was definitely implementing this on them. So again, this is all the time. So he implemented that they had to go, and still somehow it resulted in his death. And going back to that, so this is very, very insightful from him, that he has told us that we need to go back to his friends and investigate them some more. I'd like to do one more quick reading, because I've been doing this for an hour and my legs are starting to get a little stiff here, and I have a bad knee in this leg. I had an arthroscopy done about 14 years ago, and I still have the scars from it. They get very prominent in the summer with my farmer's tans. So there's one more thing that I'd like to do. Again, I'm asking Cory to focus all his energy. There's something on the bottom of my foot. And I'm looking at you, cat. What I'd like to do is, Cory, what I'd like you to do is tell me some more, again, maybe tell us some more insight into how you think that heroin or that alcohol got into your system, or how it got into your system. We know about the painkillers. We know you had your teeth fixed. And as you know, I've gone through the same thing. And I'm so grateful that you have been able to have such a spiritual connection with me, that I do feel like you are my true spirit guide, as guardian of the world. And I'm so grateful for all the visits that you've brought us. And I still remember the first time you came to visit me, and you had told me you felt that you believed you were murdered. And now that you revealed to me today that your friends were the cause of your demise by bringing that alcohol and those drugs into your hotel room, unbeknownst to your knowledge until you discovered them. Maybe you can tell us if you were indeed murdered, if they intentionally placed any of that heroin in with your pills, or if they laced your drink with it, because that could definitely have a bigger effect if it went to like a dissolved form and mixed in with liquid. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip cards over again like I've done in the last couple videos. And if I come across something that I find interesting, I'm going to flip a card on top of it. And if I have jumpers, those jumpers will get flipped first before any cards on top. So I do want to shuffle these one more time or two. And maybe even if Cory has any more insight into Lea's pregnancy, I'd like to try to tie this video back in with the first again, because I was getting a little bit of that earlier in the video. If you for if you go back and rewatch it. There was a little bit of a connection, he was telling me, with his family, and how he and Lea supposedly got the green light to go ahead and start it. And he was worried about providing financially for them if they moved to Canada. What he and Lea were going to do for work. If he was going to be the working parent, and Lea would be the stay-at-home mom, which it's starting to sound like she was going to be the stay-at-home mom. Or, they were going to work on their music together, and that was going to be their big collaboration. Because I remember when she talked about her first album, that she had played it for Cory, and he had been so excited for her first music album that he was ready to go on tour with her. He was ready to go out, and they were going to meet all their fans, and it was going to be a Monchel tour, as we liked to call it. That it was supposed to be a Monchel tour with that Louder album, and she just could not do it after he died. And they were so busy with Glee. I feel like it would have been in the summer had she gone on tour, but she was coping through the loss of Cory. That she just did not have a tour until her second album came out a few years later. So, again, any insight he gives us is definitely going to be pretty cool to find out the truth here. Alright, one more shuffle, and then I'm going to go ahead and do this. We didn't have any jumpers, which is a bummer. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to randomly flip cards here. Again, that Queen of Pentacles card just came up with the financially providing and the working parent. Remember, I just talked about that. The World. He's telling me there was a delay when it came to being parents. So again, tying that back to earlier, that he's saying that they had a green light, they gave him a green light. So it sounds like they were trying to have a baby, but there were delays because of, again, it's either probably because of his sobriety and Lea's PCOS, which does cause infertility. The other two cards I flipped, we had that Knight of Cups. It's reversed. Jealousy. There was some jealousy. And then again, that Four of Wands. There was some kind of celebration. So, he's telling me, move. My cat is totally hemming it up right now. I had to scooch just a little bit closer because, again, my legs are starting to cramp up from sitting on the bed like this. He's telling me there was a celebration. So it sounds like they were very excited. They found out they were going to be able to have kids. So they started to try the process. They were celebrating it. So what I'm coming off is this jealousy. I think I'm tying this back to his friends. I think his friends were jealous that maybe possibly they were also going through their own struggles, or they didn't have, maybe they were jealous of Lea or something. So I'm gonna just keep going here and see what else I can come up with. Let's see. That's the King of Wands. Natural born leader. He was the leader of Glee. So I want to flip a card over in that. That's that Seven of Wands reversed. He's telling me he was just overwhelmed being the leader of Glee. So yeah, he definitely did not like the fame, and he and Lea were loved. I mean, at one point they loved being the poster children for the show. They loved being mom and dad of the show, but they were exhausted from having to do all this press together, and kind of, I feel that's like when they were first together in 2009, 2010. They did date briefly before taking a short break before getting back together. So I feel that, again, she had said with getaway cars, she said that they used to just go around and drive before Glee got really big and popular. It was like their getaway, their escape. So this is telling me that Glee was the reason why they broke up the first time, was because of the popularity and the fame, and he did not like that. He just wanted to be himself. He wanted to have Lea in his life and not have all this fame and fortune. So again, this is tying back that they were getting out of Hollywood. They were getting away from the spotlight to start their family, and they had the green light. And Glee wasn't going to last very much longer. Actually, I want to do this, and this, and this. Because that High Priestess card, that's another very good card. This is like the Secrets card. It means sacred knowledge. And then that Nine of Cups came up on it. This is wish come true. This is gratitude. So again, I'm tying this back to Lea with her pregnancy. I'm not sure what my cat just knocked off. I think she just knocked my phone off while my other cat, I have two cats. Thanks so much, little girl, as she's sunbathing in the window. He's telling me that there's some secrecy and there was a wish coming true. And I am, again, tying this back. This is just what I had gotten from him the other night about Lea's pregnancy. So he's telling me again that there's some sacred knowledge and a wish is going to come true. There's some gratitude with that. So tying it back to her pregnancy, and even possibly back when they were trying to have kids, that, you know, he was content with Lea and their relationship. They were, you know, there was a lot of gratitude that their wishes were going to come true, that they were going to be able to have children. So again, I'm tying that there's a possibility they were going to start the process of in vitro fertilization, or they had the process done already, and that it's still a possibility that his children could be born if Lea has kept embryos frozen all these years. Because you can freeze sperm, you can freeze eggs, you can freeze embryos for up to 10, 15, 20 years at a time, I guess, depending how viable they are. But the next two cards, we had the Hermit and the Ten of Pentacles. The Hermit's the isolation card. Again, this Ten of Pentacles means wealth, financial security, family. So again, he's telling me financially his family would have been well off, is what he's telling me. However, now his family is alone. So he's telling me that he is connected with this baby that Lea's about to have. Whether it's his or not, if they did have IVF done, that remains to be told by Lea herself, because that will be that's her to tell us whether it's true or not. I do very much like her husband and think Zandy is very great for her. But he is up there just as much as we are as far as age goes. I'm only a year and a half younger than Zandy, a couple years younger. So this is, and it's the same with Cory. Cory and I are a couple years apart. So again, this is very interesting that this is kind of coming up. I'm not really getting anything more about these friends of his. Codependency again. I'm not drawing anything off of that except that, yes, he was, they were codependent of each other, he and Lea. And then that Page of Wands reversed. They were going down a spiritual path. So they are both very spiritual people. Especially after Cory died, Lea really got spiritual and, started redirecting her energy and stuff. And again, he's telling me they're over-investing themselves in work. Glee was very hectic, so I want to flip a card on top. Maybe not. He's just telling us he's over again, because that Ace of Swords, that was not meant to be flipped on top of there, because, again, this Ace of Swords refers to birth, to childbirth. And that's what I want to flip a card on top of that, the Star. So he's telling us with this, having a baby was going to renew their spirits. It was their way of disconnecting from Hollywood by going to have a baby and moving out of LA. So that's what he's telling me, is they were intentionally going to have a baby. And I know they were doing a lot of babysitting the year before, in 2012. So that was kind of like, I think it was them getting their practice in and getting ready for the real deal here. So this is very amazing that this is coming up. So he's telling me he was clean sober, getting his crap together, because they were going to have a family. They were going to start a family. He's telling me there's some kind of delay. And that Temperance card came up again. Something's been delayed for a purpose. So, I believe on purpose. So, again, there is a possibility that they had in vitro fertilization done, and it was delayed on purpose because he passed away. She needed to get balance back in her life. She needed to self-heal and, get back together. And then drawing off of that again, just as I was the other night when I did the reading the first time. I'm going to do one more here and see what comes up here. This is that Three of Pentacles. This is like working alone. And then that Four of Pentacles came up on it. Security. This means like saving money, scarcity or control. So what I'm getting off of these two cards is I feel this is him telling me that while he was alone, I mean, they were saving money. So it sounds like they were saving up their money for something. I do want to go back to this Celebration card. I am going to flip a card on top of it. That Ten of Cups came up again. I know it might seem odd that sometimes it's out of order, but if my energy gets drawn back to that card, it means that it's usually for a reason. But with that Celebration card, the Ten of Cups came up, and this is like harmony, alignment, and blissful relationships and divine love. So this is telling me they were married or going to get married, for sure. That there was supposed to be a wedding. There was supposed to be a wedding, or there was a wedding. So I'm very glad I decided to draw back to that. And I do want to put a card on that Knight of Cups now, just because I'm curious to more about what that jealousy was. That Two of Pentacles came up. there were so many priorities he had, that he overcommitted on as well too. I think is that there was jealousy from his friends that were in that hotel with him, that he did not see them anymore. He did not come up to see them as often, because now he was, he had Lea, and he was starting a family. So I feel again that was something to do with their relationship as far as the jealousy goes. I want to flip a couple more. I did move those aside because I'm done with them and I'm just running out of room here. We have that Seven of Swords. That there is some kind of secret. And we have that Death card. So that's very promising. There's some kind of secret revolving around his death, or something similar to it, again, as he's telling us. So I'm going to try to do that. We have that Sun card again, reversed. Again, that he was overly optimistic about something. And the Emperor card came up. Again, there was some kind of secret revolving around his death. However, he was overly optimistic, but establishing something. I know at one point he was trying to make amends with his real dad. But eventually I think it was determined that his dad, again, was just using him for his fame and his money. And that could also possibly be... I wouldn't necessarily say his dad had something to do with his death. No, I would never think his dad would do that. I do genuinely think his dad was trying to work on the relationship, but they just got so excited that he was coming back into their lives that he was just bragging to everybody, my son's famous, and, check out what my kid's doing. But his dad had not really been in his life. Then again, any divorce... there's always going to be two sides to every story. So, especially in divorces, one parent could say something bad about another parent, and it's not true, but it could be true the other way. Not necessarily that I've gone through divorce or anything, but my cousin's having to go through, custody issues with her daughter's father. They never married. They were, they were young and stupid in love, stupid love that, nowadays it's kind of like, oh, she's got to, going to do this, or he doesn't do this, or, it's, so there, like I said, there's two sides to every story, and I'm not going to get into detail over that. So I do want to flip another card over here. We have that Two of Cups again. With the partnership and the mutual attraction. And we have that Ace of Wands. So, there was some kind of delay with her and him and Lea and their relationship. So again, I feel that it's something to do with being able to conceive children, or maybe they had to push back their wedding. I feel like they had to push back their wedding. They were going to get married sooner than they wanted, sooner than they were going to. It's possible just maybe there was a conflict with scheduling with Glee or something, that they couldn't set that date probably, or they had an issue with the venue or something. So I do believe that the delay, whatever this delay was, it just had something to do with their wedding or getting their family started, going back to the last thing. I'll flip another card here. There's that Page of Cups. Again, related to childbirth as well. Not just like the Ace of Swords. A celebration or, revelation, like a birth of a baby. The King of Pentacles came up on that. There was some kind of security with that. So there's definitely some kind of secret as far as having children. So again, it's possible that they had IVF done, or were starting to. This is showing some disharmony though. With that Seven of Pentacles on top. There is some disharmony with it, some kind of investment though. So I'm wondering if maybe they invested in something, and maybe whatever it is, it didn't work the first time. Or they invested their money in something and possibly even maybe like they booked a venue and paid for it, and something happened with the venue and they didn't get their money back or something like that. And that's a possibility too. That happens a lot with weddings. That Knight of Pentacles. Again, this is like routines and stuff. Hardworking. So yeah, so this coming off of this, they had a new opportunity. Career or financial wise, I'm unsure, but there was some kind of opportunity for them, resulting, in, because they worked so hard. It was like a routine for, it's routine for, new gigs to come up here and there. But whatever this was, Cory was going to take it, or Lea wanted to take it. Hence the move to Canada. That's what was sounding was going to happen. It sounds like they were not really meant to come back for season 4 of Glee, or season 5, excuse me. The season 5 was going to be revolved more around the newbies. And they weren't going to come back till about 6 or 7. So it sounds like they were going to take a break from Glee for a bit before coming back to tie up the series, end the series. I have that King of Swords. Again, truth. This is truth, and mental clarity. And that Page of Swords is also saying thirst for knowledge. So he's telling me that we have a thirst for knowledge, for the truth. Yes, we do. So I'm hoping whatever this is, it's the Four of Cups, might reveal whatever this truth is that he's trying to tell us. Contemplation, apathy for something. Six of Swords. There was a big transition. So again, I want to tie this back. Again, I'm going to tie this back to him and Lea moving away from Hollywood and to Canada. That they were transitioning to, getting out of this, away from the spotlight to start their family. And eventually they would, come back and finish Glee. They would wrap something. They would wrap the series up and reprise their roles for like one season. And we have that Hierophant. This is challenging the status quo. So again, I'm tying that back to him. They were challenging Hollywood. They were wanting freedom from the spotlight and from all the dark powers that be in Hollywood. And that's Six of Pentacles. Again, wealth, charity, generosity, giving and receiving. So with that, you know, they gave back more to their community than they did Hollywood. So with their, you know, they were freeing themselves of Hollywood because they wanted to go do more good in the world. They were going to, you know, do more charity stuff. They were gonna do good. This is the last row I'm gonna do here. That Ace of Cups was some repressed emotions or some intuition. I want to say intuition because it came up under the truth in the cards here before. So again, there's some truth with that Nine of Wands. They were persistent for a truth or testing their faith. Now this is coming up as a financial opportunity. Again, remember we had the card that was telling us that there was some kind of career or financial opportunity that was going to manifest. That was going to manifest. And that Three of Wands has come up again. And again, there was a delay with whatever this financial opportunity was. So again, I'm not unsure whether it was due to charity or if it was something to do with their personal lives, such as trying to start their family and maybe having to worry about costs of having to have in vitro done with Lea's PCOS. So once you're usually diagnosed with something, you're automatically referred to for fertility treatments when it comes to something like that. Because I suffer from the same thing, and when I told my nurse practitioner about it, like, I think I have PCOS, she immediately ordered all these tests for me and referred me to a fertility specialist. Immediately. No questions asked. So these people that specialize in this stuff, they know what you're talking about. They know exactly what you have. And Lea said her doctor knew exactly that she had PCOS as soon as the moment she looked at her and said, this is what you need to do. So I do believe that she was instantly referred for fertility treatments or whatever, just like I was. This last card that came up is the Magician card. There's some manipulation or some poor planning, Cory's saying. And that Five of Wands. But something was conflicted, or there was, some kind of disagreement about something. So I'm going back to with the conflict. I'm tying it to Lea's infertility problem with the PCOS, and that potentially that they had to delay doing the IVF for some reason, or some kind of thing with their family. So that's what I'm getting out of this. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry it's so long, but, I feel like I could just keep going with this all night. Unfortunately, my legs are not agreeing with this, and I would pause and keep doing it. Okay, this is Ozzy. So, on behalf of Ozzy and me, thank you for watching, and if you have any requests, please feel free to leave them below in the comments, and I'll be happy to do a reading. My next reading is actually going to be Freddie Mercury from Queen. I've wanted to get in contact with him for a very long time. I am a huge fan of Queen. And I follow Brian May on Instagram and Twitter, and I think he's like amazing. And Freddie Mercury is the one person that I've always wanted to meet, and just his love for music and animals. I just thought he was the greatest guy ever, and it didn't matter whether he was gay or not. He was a diamond in the rough. You can't find anyone else like that these days, except for maybe Lea Michele. She too is a diamond in the rough. I mean, no vocal training whatsoever. So, it's hard to find these diamonds in the rough, you know? So, I'm really looking forward to trying to see if I can make contact with Freddie Mercury. But again, if you have any requests, or if, you know, and if you want me to try to make contact with a famous person or a loved one or something for you, please comment in below, or you can privately message me on Twitter. My Twitter is Ms. Holly Christine, and my Instagram account is Holly Christine 2018. 2018. Holly Christine 2018. And I'll have them below in the comments for you, or in the description, so you don't have to try to desperately search for me by typing it in. It's just paste and go. So again, if you have any requests, if you want me to try and make contact with somebody, please comment below. Let me know what you think. And again, for the Canadians, that can give me some insight into your guys' healthcare. If I'm spot on with a lot of this stuff, please let me know. I have had someone saying that they're saying, you sound like you're spot on with this. That sounds like that. This makes sense. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Stay safe. Wear a mask, and remember to vote this election. Okay? Bye, guys.